IVM.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories, India's very own travel podcast, where each week we share the journey of travelers in their own words and relive their experiences with you, our listeners.
Hey guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories. Hope you're all well and keeping safe. On the podcast today, we have a returning guest, Sahana Kulur, who has been on the podcast previously, giving us some really popular episodes that were enjoyed and appreciated. So let's hop onto the episode and find out where Sahana is taking us to today. So with that introduction, we'd like to welcome back Sahana Kulur from the blog vakework.com. Sahana, thank you so much for being a part of the Musafir Stories again, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much. And it's always good to be back on Musafir podcast. And I keep listening to all the other podcasts which have been released recently. So it's a pleasure always.
Thank you, Sahana. And for listeners listening to Sahana for the first time, I would urge you to go listen to the previous episodes that Sahana has done with us, two brilliant episodes. One on Bijapur in Karnataka, as well as another one on the temple town of Madurai. Both of them wonderful episodes, and Sahana's back to do a hat-trick episode. And I think in cricketing terms, if I were to say, you're probably one of the ones with the quickest hat-trick. Like, I don't know, probably in about a year's time or so, we're recording for the third time. That's how good Sahana has been, and that's how great her episodes have turned out to be, very popular episodes as well. So really, really glad and excited to be talking to you again, Sahana. Just in terms of your intro, I was pretty brief and concise. But for a first-time listener, would you like to share a quick intro, Sahana?
Yeah, sure. So I'm from Bangalore, Karnataka, and I'm an architect by profession. And I teach history of architecture in an architecture college. But right now I'm focusing on my travel blog, and I write monthly articles for Deccan Herald. So the articles I write for the newspaper mainly revolves around GI tag products of India, because I'm a huge fan of handicrafts, handlooms made in India. So it's some kind of an addiction, you can say, where I really want to see how the things that I'm buying is made. So that's my passion. Right now I'm working on writing stories about mainly GI tagged products made in India.
Okay, wonderful. We'll definitely make sure to link Sahana's blog as well as the other work she's been focusing on recently. So, Sahana, you know the drill. You've been here a couple times already. We usually try to pick up on a place and discuss as much as possible about it in terms of things to do, things to see, and the like. With that in mind, where are you taking us to today?
Oh, first thing, I'm not biased, okay, this time, because many people are going to say, oh, you're talking about your hometown, so you're biased. So obviously you're going to say only good things about them, but it is my hometown, but it's people's favorite also. So I'm taking you to Chikmagalur, the heart of Western Ghats in India.
Wonderful. Always great to hear about places from you, either way, like we've seen in the past two episodes, but doubly excited this time, given that you're also speaking about your hometown. That way we're getting it from the perspective or from the viewpoint of a local, right? So let's jump into the conversation, Sana, and tell us, for maybe first-time listeners who are also not very familiar with the place itself, can you also give a brief orientation of where this is located?
Sure. So Chikmagalur, it's one of the districts in Karnataka. So it's probably 350 kilometers from Bangalore, about 300 kilometers from Mysore. If you look at the aerial distance between Mangalore, the port town of Karnataka, to Chikmagalur, it's hardly actually about 30 kilometers, I guess. So there is a huge mountain between the two towns. So if you Bangalore, Mysore, Mangalore, they are some of the famous places where people usually land when they come to Karnataka or southern India. So it's about 300 kilometers from the state capital, Bangalore.
Okay, wonderful. And in terms of, like you already mentioned about other places close by, just getting to Chikmagalur, what would you recommend? How one can get there, and also in terms of an itinerary for somebody planning a visit here, what would be a suitable size or a suitable length of the itinerary?
So the good news is there is no airport. I'm happy about it, okay? Because I don't want my hometown mountains to get destroyed to make an airport. And there is a huge wildlife. So the best way would be to get to the nearest railway station, which is either Kadur or Birur. I think they are probably about 1.5 hours from Chikmagalur main town. So if you get to either Kadur or Birur by train, it's easy to get to Chikmagalur by a taxi or a private car. And there are plenty of buses to many parts of Chikmagalur. So even when I travel from Bangalore to Chikmagalur, I take a night bus. There are sleeper coach buses which are you can peacefully go. So even from Bangalore, there are day buses. From Mysore there is night bus, and even from Bangalore there are plenty of buses. So either bus or train would be the best way. And another good thing is the roads are very nice when you go from Bangalore to Chikmagalur. So first you will cross the highway and then comes the Ghat section and things. So if people want to really, people those who enjoy driving, so road trip is also a good option.
Okay, brilliant. And in terms of the length of the itinerary that you would recommend, obviously you're local here, so you have good experience. But for somebody planning on visiting here first time, what length of an itinerary would you recommend?
Here, it may be an unpopular opinion, okay, because Chikmagalur is treated as a weekend getaway from most of the people who are around the thing. But I really feel you should spend at least 5 days here. There is so much in terms of hiking, and these temples in Chikmagalur are really not that famous. So you can really have the entire temple for your own at times. And most people stick to the Chikmagalur town and the resorts nearby. So I really suggest you keep at least 5 days. I would say 1 week is wonderful, but majorly, especially from Bangalore, people consider it as a weekend getaway.
Okay, brilliant. So let's dive into the itinerary and find out a little bit more about what different aspects one has to see beyond. Like usually you tie Chikmagalur to good weather and coffee plantations and probably like leave it at that, right? Like you mentioned, most people come here for the weekend and most people enjoy it in the resorts and then go back. But I'm really looking forward to finding out about the other very diverse aspects of an experience, of a travel experience that one can have while visiting Chikmagalur. And what time of the year would you recommend is best to visit?
So October to February end would be the best, because the temperatures are really nice. Like October to December is the peak winter. But another crazy thing is, for example, my husband loves to visit Chikmagalur during rain. I don't know how come. I am scared, being a Chikmagalur, and I'm scared of leeches. I hope people are aware of that insect that gets stuck onto your foot and skin and sucks your blood. So they grow plenty during December, August, the rainy season. Okay, so if you are a crazy person like my husband who wants to ride a bike in the rain, climb the mountain when it's slippery, then August is your time too. And the another part about August is it's the greenest time of the year. So it's like the play of rain and clouds and a little bit of sunshine. So and you constantly hear the music of peacock singing during rainy season.
Yeah, I can tell you, your husband is not alone. There's a lot of us who love,
oh my god,
enjoy trekking in the rain. Obviously, not rain pouring down like anything, but when there's a light drizzle and you get to walk in the greenery, especially the weather's also really nice at that time. It definitely is an enjoyable experience. So, different options for you to check out depending on the time of the year you're visiting as well. Also, just about the name, right? I know for us Kannadigas and Kannada speakers, Chikmagalur will easily translate to what that means, right? But you want to just provide some insight into that?
Yeah, there is a story that says what we call as paleygara, or person who takes care of the town, had two daughters. He gave one a part of the town to his elder daughter. That became Magaluru. That means town of elder daughter. And the other town which he gave to his younger daughter became Chikmagalur. That means younger daughter's town. So many people confuse Chikmagalur with Chikmagalur because Magaluru sounds same. But Mangaluru got its name from Mangala Devi temple. It's Mangala, where this is Magaluru. So there is a story that says that it belongs to the town of younger daughter of a paleygara or somebody like that.
Exactly. This is the reference I came across as well. And like you rightly mentioned, people, I think even now I see people, they confuse in Chikmagalur, Mangalore, right? Like they confuse and pronounce it that way too. So don't be surprised. But the right pronunciation is Chikmagalur, or the younger daughter's town. Awesome. So with that context and background, both geographic orientation plus some background, historical perspective, etc., now being set, where do you want to stay to take us to? Like for somebody visiting here for the first time, what do you recommend they start off the experience with?
Sure. Would you like to start with the adventure or just chilling? What do you want to start with?
Maybe we'll get started with the adventure, so that way we have time to chill after. How does that sound?
Sure, that sounds perfect actually. You need to rest after hiking.
Yeah, exactly.
In Chikmagalur, it's mainly the mountainous region. Highest peak of Karnataka, which is called as Mullayangiri, is kind of an emblem of Chikmagalur. So Mullayangiri, Chikmagalur, the moment you say Chikmagalur, everybody knows Mullayangiri. And it's super, super famous on the truckers and hikers around. I would like to take you guys to Mullayangiri peak first. And when we talk about hiking or trekking, it's not as difficult as probably I would say, in my experience. It's easier than hiking in Petra. But you just have to be a little conscious and because you will be walking a lot by the cliffside, and there are steps at some places, and there are two trails, which is one is called a Sarpadari trail, which is like a serpent, and you have to walk a lot and things. So when you reach the peak of Mullayangiri, it's like you reach the clouds. And you see the green patches. There are paddy fields, coffee, and many things which is totally green. So Mullayangiri would be like my top recommendation. And for those who can't walk, to an extent you can take your car and park till a temple, and then if you really want to reach the topmost peak, you have to walk. The next would be the next famous peak, which is Baba Budangiri. So there is a very nice story about it. Not story, it's in fact the fact. So a Muslim saint named Baba Budan, who had gone to Mecca for his pilgrimage, was coming back, and he smuggled some of the coffee beans from a port in Yemen to India, and he comes to Chikmagalur. So, and he comes with the coffee seeds, and he plants it in the mountain called as Chandradrona parvata. So, I don't know what was his intention, like if he wanted to convert the entire area into coffee estate or what, but thank God he did. So from there, the coffee planting cultivation began in India. Actually, it's the first place where coffee plants grew in India. So it spread like that, and during British time, the coffee was taken to Coorg, also Madikeri. So in Baba Budangiri is another peak where again you are on the cloud, and there is a beautiful lake called Gaali kere, which really you never know the lake exists there, okay? Because especially during October to December, it will be covered with clouds and fog. So it suddenly opens up, so you see a water body, then you see the valley. So it's something literally like somebody painted the entire earth green. So, and in Baba Budangiri there are two temples. So, a Hindu temple and a Muslim dargah, they are attached to each other. They share the common wall. So, one is Dattatreya Pita and the other is the dargah of Baba Budan. So, both Hindus and Muslims consider this place as sacred also.
Yeah, one of the very popular places, right? Like you mentioned, even from a pilgrimage perspective, a lot of pilgrims visit here, and I believe 1670 AD is when Baba Budan made that journey, and while returning from his Hajj pilgrimage, he smuggled those coffee beans. But I don't know, like one way or the other, the origin of coffee in India began from there, and this region, right, and then around the southern part of India is also one of the highest coffee producers in India. Awesome. So we've kind of touched upon a couple of interesting hiking trails now. One being the highest peak in Karnataka, and the other one also having this marker in terms of being the place where almost coffee came to India from, plus the religious significance of it as well. Where next to, Sahana?
The next one is my husband's favorite. And I find it little hard to climb this fort. It's called as Balladarayana Durga. And it's not as famous among all the weekend travelers as much as they would go to Mullayangiri or Baba Budangiri. Definitely, I'm not saying it's an offbeat place. Nobody knows that it's a hidden gem, but kind of a hidden gem because it's a little difficult to climb here. So probably it's one of the most beautiful places in Chikmagalur. It's closer to a place called Kere. So this uphill trek takes about 3 hours, and as you are reaching the top, you see the remains of an old fort. So there is no fort or walls or palace kind of a thing, but like how you see Hadrian walls across UK, right? There's a long, probably 3 feet high stone wall passes across the mountain. So it's again the valleys and greens, and it looks that green and smooth. So the shades of greens that you never know existed, you can see here. This is my favorite place in Chikmagalur.
Yeah, I can definitely say it's definitely not an exaggeration. And like you mentioned, sometimes you wonder whether these places really are in India. And I'm glad that you got to cover some of these. This place also has been, like, in the past ruled by the Hoysalas, right? So I'm assuming there's some connection there. It's probably one of the forts of the Hoysalas in the past, right? So
yes,
that's probably
definitely.
Yeah. Awesome. So where next to?
So the next, it's pretty famous, and I would say it's little crowded. So it's a place called Ettinabhuja. Ettu means ox, so Bhuja means shoulder. So it's like ox's shoulder. So the peak looks like that big bump we see on the bulls, right? So it looks like that. So it's closer to the famous Chamadi Ghat, the Ghat section, and it got really popular after one of the Kannada movies called Love Mocktail 2 or 1, I'm not sure. One of the parts got filmed there, and people go there like crazy. And sometimes I really feel that there should be some kind of a restriction on how many number of people can truck. So it's definitely a beautiful place, but remember, people are mad about this place too.
Okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen both part 1 and part 2 to go back and see which one covered this. Awesome. So yeah, a lot of different types of hiking options too, right? Like we've been touching upon, even depending on the time of the year you go, you may find like a completely different phase of the locale or the region you're visiting. Perfect. Yeah, okay, let's keep going. Where next to?
So the next is Kudremukha. So Kudremukha was known for as it was the mining town,
right,
which got shut. So now it's a ghost town. But the Kudremukha means horse face. So the peak here looks like resembles the horse face. So when you go from a village called Samse, you can trek this trail. There are many small lakes, ponds, and you go beside Bhadra river and reach the peak. There are smaller shrines. People are crazy because Kudremukha trek is super famous among people during rainy season. People love to go on to the top put a tent when it's pouring, get up in the morning, have Maggie in the rain. So it's a very popular monsoon trek. So there are many companies in Karnataka who can take you to the Kudremukha peak during rain.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I'll probably age myself here, but I think it was like almost 30 years ago that we had done a trip from here. It was a road trip. And when I say road trip, not like a couple of us or three, four of us traveling. It was like a good group of some 20 people in those tempo travelers that we used to have back in the day, right? So everybody from my cousins to all of us had done a road trip, and I think we had, yeah, my uncle, one of my uncles used to work in Bhadravati. That also has the Vishweshwara Iron and Steel that he used to have back in the day.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
we did a trip from there through, I think, I don't know where we ended up, but we passed through a bunch of places, and Kudremukha was one of the stops. That's how long ago it's been. But yeah, I completely hear you, and it takes me back to those memories.
I used to spend my summers in Kudremukha for about 10 days. My uncle used to live there. So Kudremukha is so fascinating that when you pass an area called Kere, then you take a left turn to go to Kudremukha. The scenery changes totally. And you never know when an Indian gaur or the bison, like we call it, they just cross the road. Like, dude, it's my road, why are you there? As a kid, it was the most fascinating thing I ever did with my father. Like, I used to say Hanuman Chalisa and pray to all gods, saying that I need to see a bison. I never saw an elephant, but people do see. But bisons are common sights when you are driving to Kudremukha. And even the town was so well planned. It was, I think, built by French, or the town planning was done by French. So and it was so well developed, with the hospital, with the CBSE school, and there was a mosque, there was a temple, there was a church. So Kudremukha was one of the best towns in India, which I really feel sad for that being a ghost town now.
Right.
It really breaks my heart.
So, yeah, some good old memories, and I'm glad that we're getting to touch upon that in the podcast as well. So, yeah, Kudremukha and probably has a bunch of things you could do here too. And like you mentioned, for the other treks, it can easily be like a good 1 hour conversation around the different treks and things you could do in and around Kudremukha. But anything else?
There are many more hiking trails, but I'm going to end it with a place called Narsimha Parvata, which is near the place Sringeri. So that's my grandparents' house. Their house is much more in the remote place near Sringeri. So it really doesn't make it to everybody's list who visits Chikmagalur or Sringeri, but it's a beautiful place. I won't say you see the meadows, but you see the Ghats of Agumbe here. So it's weird how Agumbe is actually far, but from this mountain, it's like, hey, I'm almost in Agumbe. So it's another hiking trail. You can even camp there if you have permission. You have to have prior permission from the police, and most of these trekking trails require you to take prior permission. One of the reasons why you need to take is people keep trashing these places. Okay, it really breaks my heart to see the trail littered with plastic box, kurkure, fruity, and whatnot, and even sometimes beer bottles too. They do throw that. So all these places, to maintain the really sanity of the place, they'll require you to take permissions to most of these trails. So if you really want to set any tent in Narsim Parvata top, you really have to take permissions from the local authorities.
Yeah, good point that you called out as well, and it is really important, especially for places like these that are also. I mean, even otherwise, but especially places like these that are also like ecological hotspots, right? With all the different flora, fauna. It's really important that we try and preserve that and not litter and pollute them. So thank you so much for covering those, Sahana. And like once we've covered a few of these hiking or adventure type experiences, what else would you like to recommend in Chikmagalur?
So many people who go to Chikmagalur are like, I really don't want to hear anything. I want to hear zero noise. I don't want to see anybody. I really want to be alone. So and trust me, it's really a good place if you pick a remote place. Probably the next best thing to do in Chikmagalur is do nothing. So pick a cozy homestay in the corner of a forest area or a remote village. And I remember my grandfather's younger brother used to run a homestay. Every year, one of the very famous Kannada newspaper editor used to come. He used to climb one of the what we call as chapra, the place where they dry arecanut and things. No, he used to climb there and stare at infinity for probably 3 to 4 hours, because you really don't hear anything in remote villages. Probably birds chirping or the dog in the house, or 2 3 people chatting, that's all. So you, if you really want to hear the silence, you really can pick a very nice homestay in the remote area and do nothing. Or there are people who want to do something but not too much. There are a few Ayurvedic ashrams also. One of the famous is Panchajanya Ayurvedic ashram. So they also conduct yoga retreat and things like that. People whom I know have gone there and they say that it's really refreshing. And another one which my family take Ayurveda treatment is from called as it's called as Arogyniketana Ayurveda Ashrama. It's in a place called Hariharpura. Hariharpura is a town located on the banks of river Tunga. So if you want to get any Ayurvedic treatment like Snehapana, Panchakarma and things like that, you can pick any Ayurvedic ashrams. There are plenty in Chikmagalur. So probably for a week or 5 days or 2 days, depending on what you want to do, you can do that and really have a relaxing, like I'm away from everybody, I'm away from all the noise, I'm just focusing on myself. So you can do that in Chikmagalur.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely something to consider as well if you want like a true break from, especially if you live in a noisy city like Sahana and I have lived mostly in Bangalore. I think even in terms of other experiences one can enjoy while, let's say, putting up in a homestay. Anything in particular you'd like to recommend in terms of trying out?
Actually, another interesting thing about Chikmagalur is I realized it when I went to Salzburg. So Salzburg is, I think, at 424 or 425 meter altitude, and Chikmagalur is at about 1090. So the altitude level of Chikmagalur is much higher than Salzburg. So imagine how hilly and fertile land, rainfall, and it's like on heaven for growing coffee, pepper, cardamom, betel nuts mainly, and partly tea also. So whenever you go to Chikmagalur, I really feel visiting any of these plantations and their curing centers, no, it's really part of the experience. So, and Chikmagalur is full of mansions. You won't believe it. I have been to my dad's friend's house and all. They have teakwood furniture, teakwood bed, teakwood door, which we cannot afford in Bangalore household. So you'll really understand why the culture of Chikmagalur is that way, because it's full of estates. So there are coffee estates, tea estate. So you can go to tea factory tours. Then if you go between probably November to February, you can ask your homestay or resort owner to take you to any nearby house where they actually taking the betel nuts or areca nuts out of the tree dry, and how they cure everything. So areca nut tours, tea factory and coffee plantation. So I would really recommend, based on the season you are in, pick one. And you will be in for treat if you visit Chikmagalur during probably January to March. That's when the coffee flowers bloom. Okay, so it's really magical. You see the white flowers, they look like marigold but in white, and there will be so many bees. Like, you can really hear the typical bees buzzing, and the fragrance is amazing. You, maybe people who are sensitive to smell might get a headache, But it's the most beautiful time in probably in Malnad when coffee blooms. So if you're in between December to January, because I'm giving a huge window of 3 months, because when these coffee flowers bloom depend on the rain. So it varies season with every year as per the rainfall. But I would say it's really magical to visit coffee plantations when they're in full bloom. And then tea plantations, I would say Chikmagalur doesn't produce the greatest tea in India, of course, but it does exist. For those who have never been to a tea estate, there are plenty of tea estates that can let you inside the factory for a small amount of fees for a group, and they'll show you around how they make and things. So the next best thing would be taking plantation tours.
Yeah, I know this is a audio podcast, so there's obviously no video element to this to see how beautiful some of these things are. But more than that, the senses where you can smell, right? Be it like you mentioned, the smell of the coffee beans the coffee flowers as they're blooming, or the spices and the arecanut and everything. And estates are just lovely for somebody who wants to just get away, break away, and enjoy some peaceful time and just enlighten your senses. I think this is the perfect getaway. So thank you for covering all of those wonderful experiences as well in Chikmagalur. What else would you like to cover, Sahana?
So the next is wild animals. You can spot a lot of wildlife in Chikmagalur. So if the best way is to go to Badra Wildlife Sanctuary or Bhagavati Nature Camp in Kudremukha. So it's the usual jeep safari where they take you to places and show you along with the guide. So it's a safer option.
Yeah, I mean, if you for wildlife enthusiasts, there's definitely some options like Badra Wildlife Sanctuary and others that Sana mentioned. And overall too, like you mentioned at the beginning too, it is a ecological hotspot. So there is a variety of birds and animals and insects, and yeah, the ones who like to go on treks, you'll definitely run into leeches as well. That's not going to come as a surprise, but for somebody wanting to go on safaris and stuff like that, there's options there too. And yeah, having covered some of the wildlife slash nature type of experiences, where next to?
So the next would be my favorite topic, temple architecture. So because I'm an architect and I teach history, a beauty of temple architecture in Chikmagalur is it's not destroyed. And you don't see colonial trail at all in Chikmagalur. So if you think of, let's say, Ooty or Shimla, where it is hilly, colder, and lots of spices grow and things like that, everywhere British have gone, but I don't think there exists even one single bungalow named after a British or something like that. There is no traces of British. And much of the temples which are here are Hoysala architecture. So you have star-shaped temples, usually made up of black soapstone and exquisite carving. I think everybody knows Belur Halebid, which is in Hassan district, which is very close to Chikmagalur. They got UNESCO World Heritage Tag in 2023. So those are the two most famous places, and for sure they'll be crowded. So Belur Halebid is like every school will take their kids to Belur Halebid for an excursion, including I have also been. So it's kind of crowded, definitely worth. But there are many temples like people don't know much about. For example, Belavadi, which is near Halebidu, again it's a similar temple to Halebid, but not with less crowd. And there is one temple called as Lakshmi Narayana temple near Jaugal. So not many people know about it. Then another favorite is Amriteshwara temple in Amrutapura. It is little far from Chikmagalur town, but it's one of the most beautiful temples where you can't believe that the temple is not made with machines. Then there is one more temple in Hiranallur called Mallikarjuna temple, which is, again, I think it's a blackish brown stone temple. you can keep staring at them for hours together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you rightly mentioned, pretty much one of the unique characteristics of temples of this time in this region, right? The Hoysalas primarily is the black soapstone and just the shine they have about them, right? Architecture-wise, also like closer to the other Dravidian structures, you might say, but the soapstone part of it really makes them stand out. And I'll just add a subtle plug here. We did an episode on the Hoysala architecture and the temples in the region, right? So especially in Karnataka, be it Hassan or Mysore, Shimoga, like all of these places have a bunch of those, and obviously the Belur, Halebeedu ones that Sana mentioned are the most popular ones, but there are a bunch of the lesser known ones that one should definitely check out. So we'll link the episode there, like in the show notes too, so definitely check that out. Initially, you may only think, okay, Chikmagalur is coffee, is estates, is resorts, and having a nice time. But just in terms of options, there's so many, be it adventure to wildlife to now even temples added to the mix. But when we're doing all of this, Sana, I'm sure one is also like exhausted doing one thing to the other, and will be hungry and will want to check out something to eat as well. What would you recommend, or what is your experience as a local that one should definitely try out when visiting Chikmagalur?
So you want vegetarian or non-vegetarian?
I go both ways, so let's try both of them so that even the listeners can get a sample of it.
So I'm a vegetarian, so I'll talk about vegetarian first. It's my saying by mother, okay? We Malnad people, Chikmagalur is called as Malenadu region, will never let even one part of jackfruit go waste. Okay? So jackfruit, which is I think from April to June, July. So we eat the flesh when it's ripened. Then if it's over ripened, we'll make dosa batter out of it. So we make halsanandin dosa, jackfruit kadbu we make, kind of an idli kind of a thing. Before it gets ripened, when it's raw, we make jackfruit chips. And we make raw jackfruit sambar, and then we won't let the seeds of jackfruit go waste. We dry that and make a snack out of that also. Apart from the outer shell and the little things, Malnad people never let go any part of jackfruit go waste. So jackfruit is like the king of vegetarians in Malnad. So that's, I'm talking about a seasonal food. Other than that, you'll have neer dosa, then idli is obvious, and akki roti, that is my favorite. You may find akki roti in Coorg also. It's a very popular dish in Coorg, but it's very different from what we prepare in Chikmagalur. So in Coorg, it's just the rice flour with a sambar kind of a thing they eat. But here, to the rice flour, we add finely chopped cucumber, dill leaves, carrot, onions, and many things. So, and we make roti out of it. That's another Malnad special. Other than that, we make many steamed food. I think people must have heard of something called as undlige, and different types of chutney, coconut chutney, coriander chutney, onion chutney, that goes with all this. And we make another rice dish called as shavge. So it's like long noodles, thin noodles made up of rice, which is very tasty. You can make it either sweet or spicy, both you can make. So as of now, I can think of this many food, and of course, goli bache. Whenever whenever it's raining, it's a mandatory thing in Chikmagalur household to make bhajis made up of chili or banana, and of course with this dish called as goli bache.
Yeah, absolutely. I was complaining to Sahana when she sent me the list of things she wants to discuss in terms of food. I think when I checked my email or whatever, it was like a Friday night, and I was like, why did you have to send it to me at this time, or why did I have to open it at the Friday night? That like all of these, like literally mouth-watering dishes that you feel like you have to go back up now even after dinner and eat on something just to fulfill your cravings. And remember, we are only touching upon the vegetarian side of the offering
Yeah.
so far, and you would be surprised at the kinds of non-vegetarian offerings also that the place has to offer. And do you want to touch upon some of those, Sahana?
Sure. So, when I was writing about Chikmagalur, I'm like, hey, do we even have non-vegetarian food? No, I think we are all vegetarians. I probably claimed, okay. Then I called my friend. She's a Vokaliga. She's a Gouda. Then I'm like, hey, you also eat vegetarian food only, right? You don't eat anything non-vegetarian. She's like, why should I eat vegetarian food? I make non-veg food. I'm like, oh, there people do make non-vegetarian food in Chikmagalur. Then she gave me a list and she explained how they make, and I was shocked that Chikmagalur has so much non-veg food. So it's almost like they make neer dosai, but they with neer dosai they make something called as bhutai mean saru. So it's a typical type of fish, because Chikmagalur fish is, I mean, the fish you get in Chikmagalur is not sea fish.
Right.
It's not marine fish. So Bhutai, Bangde, and all these most popular, the river ones or the pond ones. So they make side dishes for neer dosai with these fish, and they make kadbu, like something like idli, and they make nati koli saru. That means the local chicken curry with that, and we eat, yeah. And then they make shavge with mutton curry, where we make shavge with coconut chutney as vegetarians. Then there is a huge variety of local fish that there are names which I never knew that those species of fish existed. Kaddi meenu, halad meenu. So there is a huge variety of fish items they do, like curry or with the rice and dosa. Another thing is having so much of wildlife. It's obviously Chikmagalur hunting was part of Chikmagalur culture before, which is totally banned now. So they used to make something called as apparently huri mamsa. Okay, so that is made out of wild boar. So she says, she says, my friend Meghavi, she says she misses that because they can't eat it anymore because hunting for wild boar and all is totally banned. Out of all the things, the most peculiar one I found, and I didn't know people make that, is something called as chigali chutney. Okay, so chigali is red ant. So people who are really experienced climb the trees wearing gunny bags and all kind of protection over their head and hands and legs. Then they break the nest of these red ants, fry it along with their larva. So it's like kind of a tangy chutney apparently, which is very famous among the Kaliga community and also other communities. So probably I have heard of I have seen things in Thailand and Japan where they make things like this, but chigli chutney, which is made up of red ants, is really apparently a popular non-vegetarian cuisine in Chikmagalur.
Yeah, it reminds me of the only other place I have heard of in India is Chhattisgarh. Sahana, that place also has red ant chutney that is very popular, right? They sell this in the markets, and it's just fascinating to look at how it's made. And actually, I was surprised hearing about this in Chikmagalur. I did not know. I thought it was only that part of India that had this, like more of the tribal regions. And I'm actually very surprised and glad that it's available much closer to home as well for somebody in South India who may want to try this. So yeah, a lot of things. And non-vegetarian food of South India, like be it here in the coastal areas of Karnataka or even Tamil Nadu, non-veg, right? It isn't very obvious. People, I don't know, for some reason we think that only vegetarian food is very popular and common, and I guess to the most part, but non-vegetarian food is it has like
equally
cult,
popular.
yeah, very popular, and has like a cult following here among South Indians in terms of people who really like and appreciate it. So if you're visiting here, do try out some of the options that
and she mentioned one more dish which is called as motte aloo gidde saru. So it's like you want to eat meat, but you don't have access, or meat is over at home or something, or unannounced guests come. So it's like potatoes and boiled eggs. I eat eggs, so I really want to try this. And they add seasonal beans to it and make a gravy out of it. So it goes with akki roti and rice also. So it's motte aloo gedde saru. It's another very popular thing people eat in Chikmagalur.
Yeah, it's like never ending, the list and the variety, especially be it eggs or pork or fish or mutton or whatever it is. And obviously, you have the vegetarian options too. So, cuisine wise, you're definitely covered here. You don't have to worry about it too much. Just come there with a little bit of an open mind and be ready to experiment. And you have all of the options available. Yeah, I know I said this on a Friday night and I'm recording this on a Monday morning, and the feeling still remains the same. But yeah, I have to go down and eat something now to get over all of the mouth-watering dishes and the cuisine that Sana has mentioned. And Sana, like we have pretty extensively covered the food aspects of the offerings. Any places in particular you'd like to call out, like restaurants or smaller places one can try?
Most of the places in Chikmagalur are locally run, and you ask your homestay people to cook all this. But one of the places where my father loves eating dosa is called as Town Hotel in Chikmagalur.
Is that the town canteen? Like I keep hearing about
Yeah,
the
town canteen,
dosa,
yeah.
the masala dosa or the benne dosa from there a lot. Wonderful.
Exactly,
So,
town canteen.
yeah, so you pretty much have everything available. And yeah, sorry if I kind of derailed your like the thought train in terms of what you wanted to cover next. Looks like you also wanted to touch upon places in the vicinity, right? If you want to make quick day trips
Yes.
from the region. Yeah, why don't you share some
Yeah.
of those, Sahana?
So Chikmagalur has Tunga and Bhadra river both. So in Sringeri, Tunga river flows, and near Balehanur it's the Bhadra river. So both of them take birth in one of the place called Gangamula in Kudremukha. So Bhadra is known to be having a very corrosive effect on its way. So there is a place called Bhadra River for Bhadra River rafting. Somewhere it's closer to a place called Balehunur. It's really what do you say? Adrenaline rush, I would say. So if you are in Chikmagalur, you can start your day as early as possible. Hit the river rafting, and then come back to Balehanur, have some breakfast in the local place. Then I would say you head to Sringeri. That's where I studied, and it's one of the very famous temples. One of the temple established by Shankaracharya. And the unique thing about this temple is the main temple is not architecturally beautiful, but the Shiva temple in the same compound, it's truly magical. Like how you see those Hoysala architecture temple, right? So when you say Sringeri, the picture that emerges is not the main temple, but another temple in the vicinity. If you are staying in Sringeri, next day I would say you can go to the falls nearby, like Magabail Falls, Sirimane Falls, and the hiking trail what I mentioned, Narsimha Parvata, is also very close to Sringeri. So you can plan just 2 days itself in and out of Sringeri. So that's one place to visit near Chikmagalur. Then would be Kalasa and Hornadu. Kalsa has lots of tea estates, and near Kalsa there is a place called Maki. Again, it got over popular because of, I think, Galipata 2 movie and also Love Mocktail. So it's a very terrible road, like the bumpiest mud road I have ever seen. So you have to take a jeep and reach the top. It literally looks like Switzerland with the meadows. So it's the green rolling hills everywhere. And another place called as Panchami Kallu. It's a Jain Basadi. So you have a small shrine on a giant stone boulder, and you can sit at the cliff or the edge of the boulder, and the scenery there is very beautiful. Okay, so you have flatlands of paddy and rice fields all around. and suddenly a patch of tall arecanuts appears, and then again it goes flat. So it's like the combination of flat rice fields and areca trees. So I would say it's best to be there during either sunset or sunrise, the most beautiful time. And the
That
next place,
picture is stunning. I had to, sorry, interject and say the one that you're sitting at the edge of the cliff and the basadi or the structure in the back end, right? And obviously the hills and the farms and paddy fields, like you mentioned in the background. Now, beautiful place, and I can only imagine being there for sunrise or sunset. So, sorry to again interject, but
no
that
problem.
picture is really beautiful.
The other would be, obviously we mentioned Beluru and Halebeedu nearby,
Yeah.
which is in the Hassan district. And people who really love driving and are good at driving, I would say you should take a drive on Charmadi Ghat. So in Kannada movies, if you remember, they used to show there is huge clouds, and Narada character walks on the cloud, right?
Yeah.
Doing bhajan. So every time I go to Charmadi Ghat, I imagine that, because it's a narrow road with mountains on one side and huge cliff on the other side. So at times you see the part of Konkan railway tracks,
Yeah.
you see river, and then you see valley. So it's one of the most beautiful drives. I think I travel there a lot, at least twice or thrice a year, not just for the sake of pleasure, but it's the route to my husband's house. So every time I go there, I make a video and I feel, wow, such a nice place. I have never gotten bored of Charmadi Ghat.
Yeah, definitely worth it, and obviously the sceneries will keep you occupied, but make sure you also keep your eye out on the road, because the bus drivers also have a day out on Charmadi Ghat and Shirdi Ghat. Like whenever you're making that trip to Mangalore, I always come across these crazy bus drivers, right, who are really driving rash. But yeah, thank you so much for covering all of these wonderful places, not just in Chikmagalur town and the vicinity, but also well beyond that. For somebody visiting this place and has time on hand, they can definitely make some day trips out of here. And also in terms of things one can shop for, or souvenirs and things one can pick up while in Chikmagalur, what would you recommend, Sahana?
So many people know banana chips from Kerala. So
Yeah.
Chikmagalur is also another banana chips heaven. And most of the time when I was in college, or even now, the first thing people ask when I come back home is, did you get banana chips? So the kind of banana they use here is different, and they
Yeah.
mix it with little bit of chili. I'm not saying there will be a lot of chili powder, and they add a pinch of hing to it. So it's really a thing in Chikmagalur, especially in Sringeri side, where we do banana chips. And if you get a chance, there are places where you can actually see them chopping banana and making. So you can really do that. And the next thing would be, I say, coffee powder. Obviously, you have to buy coffee powder from Chikmagalur,
Yeah.
and it's filter coffee. So it's not the. I have tried making black coffee out of it, but it didn't come out well. So you buy a filter and filter coffee powder. So the most famous one brand is called is Panduranga Coffee. So it's available in almost all the shops in Chikmagalur. So if you're not visiting any coffee curing center or estate, you can pick up the brand Panduranga Coffee. And then, of course, spices. India itself is a home for spices. So, pepper, cardamom, nutmeg, turmeric, betel nuts, and even what do we call gooseberries. And there are many oils made up of the herbs which are available. I don't even know the names of it. For example, as a kid, we used to use something called as matti soppu. I don't know what's it called in English. So these kind of herbs and spices are plenty available in Chikmagalur. So I would say green pepper, cardamom, betel nut. So you should grab those. And if you really want to keep something very like a showpiece in your house, I would say you should buy Hale Topi. So Hale Topi is something made up of the sheet of areca leaf after the fruit is taken out. The leaf sheets, they make a hat out of it. Usually, it's the farm workers' hat they use to get protection from heat, rain, and whenever they're working, if they fall, it protects them. It's really kind of a hallmark of Malnad region. And then, of course, there are areca leaf plates. You do get this in Bangalore and Uttarakhand and other places, but as a lot of areca plantations around, these are one of the things to buy. And actually, you can put it for good use. So, and if you're there in Chikmagalur during monsoon, of course, you have to eat and buy jackfruit chips.
Yeah, wonderful. A lot of interesting things there, be it the alatopi or obviously your banana chips, right? Very unique and different from the ones that you get from further down south in Kerala. So thank you for covering off some of those things that you can either buy or take as souvenirs home, so that you can remember Chikmagalur long after you've made the trip. Again, Sana, thank you so much. It was a delight and a pleasure to visit with you to your hometown this time, and go and explore Chikmagalur beyond the usually spoken about things like coffee and estates, and resorts and homestays. We really enjoyed the nature aspect of it, the cultural and religious and temple architecture aspect of it as well as the other things you had to share with us. Looking forward to having you back for a fourth time, hopefully, not too far from now. But thank you so much for being on the podcast and blessing us and our audience with these wonderful places and experiences, Sahana.
Thank you so much, Saif. Have a nice day, and it's always a pleasure to be on Musafir podcast. I am also looking forward to be on the podcast again.
Our pleasure to have you in the future and anytime that you wish. Thank you so much, Sahana. Looking forward to connecting with you and following your work again. That was yet another great episode on the Musafir Stories. Make sure to show us some love by sharing the podcast with your friends and family. We are on Instagram and Twitter at Musafir Stories. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM podcast app or the website. Follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram.